Good morning friends and welcome to EduSat Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in Commerce, as you know that we have started a series on organizational behavior, and today we are conducting the fourth lecture in the series. In today's lecture we will be trying to understand motivation and its theories. To discuss this topic we have with us our subject expert Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Rajput is Associate Professor in Department of Commerce in Aurobindo College, University of Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome ma'am to our studios and request her to start the lecture. Welcome ma'am.
Good morning. So good morning friends. Today we will be talking about motivation and its theories. So it's a very integral part of the organization behavior. Now as and when we are brought up in life, we get age in its life, the psychological factors do we see that everyone is different, their motivation level is different. Some people would like to work, some people would not like to work. So there are so many ifs and buts, there are so many question marks. So to get the answers of this, today we have the motivation and its theory as a subject. So in the psychology, motivation is one of the most repeatedly used words. It refers to the features which move or stimulate an individual. We assume that the existence of motivation when we see that people work together certain goals. And for instance, we monitor that the student works hard at nearly every task that comes to him or her So from this we suppose that the person has a motivation to attain a goal, and all the human behavior appear to begin in reply to some of the internal or external stimulus. Though the behavior is not haphazard, they entail various purpose or goals. It is frequently held that behavior takes place as an outcome of the stimulation of certain motives. Therefore, motivation can be defined as the procedure of starting, maintaining, directing and behavior towards a particular goal. The course is typically terminated once the desired goal is achieved by the person, and the process of initiating the action is theoretically called motivation. So let me explain you this concept of motivation. Now as we see that the motivation level differs from the student, from the person to person, and it is dependent upon the desires and the needs. And as and when the needs are fulfilled, the people would not like to work on that because they were working to desire and fulfill that need, and after the completion of that need, they are not working towards it. So that means the desires, the needs, they are the pushing force for an individual to do a particular action, and this is what is called as a motivation. So motivation has something to do with the outcome, and in this basically the individual, they develop a desire to complete the work from within the heart and the core of an individual. They put in their heart and soul into that work because they want to desire to achieve those needs, to fulfill those needs. So once the outcome is achieved, the level goes down and the motivation level is fulfilled, and people will not like to come up to that work again because their work has already been done. So taking it forward, let me have a concept of the motivation by a few of the famous psychologists. So motivation as the inner trick which promotes the people to work in a certain way and involves the people of psychological factors that starts and maintain the activity towards the achievement of the personal goals. It is as per Muzai. According to the Gibson, motivation may be defined as a state of individual perspectives which represents the strength of his or her propensity to exert effort towards some particular behavior. Motivation refers to the expenditure of efforts towards a goal. This is as per Dublin. Now as per the Steer and Potter, motivation is the force that energizes the behavior, gives the direction to the work, and of course, and it underlines the tendency to persist. Now as per the Kuntz, the motivation is in general is a term applying to the entire class of drives, desires, needs, wishes and the similar forces. To say that the managers motivate their subordinates is to say that they do these things which they help will satisfy these drives and desires and induce the subordinates to act in a desired manner. So we have seen the concept of the motivation here, and all the definitions which have been given by the various psychologists, they center towards the achievement of the goal. So that means the major driving factor in the motivation is all about completion of those goals and completion of those drives and the ends which the individuals have to achieve. So all the definitions, definitional aspect, they focus on the achievement of the organizational goals or organizations of the personal objectives. So whatever we do as per the objectives which we have to achieve. So they are the end and the desired ends which everyone is striving for, and everyone has a direction, and the direction will take you or to the destination of the achievement and the fulfillment of the goals, and that is the most driving factor behind the motivation. Now, as such, motivation is a very internal process leading to the behavior to satisfy the needs. They have to ever wondered why people do these things they do. Primarily the reason people do what they do is to meet their needs and wants, and there are few terms which you will come across when you will learn this lesson of motivation, such as needs, goals, individuals, across, motivators, incentives, etc. The model of motivation helps the managers enforce the right motivators to prompt the work to action and suitable for the organization to achieve its broader goals. Now, according to this, if the employee's behavior is acceptable to managers, it is followed by the rewards, and the rewards satisfy their needs, reinforce the behavior towards organizational activities, and perpetuate further needs in them. On the contrary, if the behavior is not suitably rewarded and the employee's need remain unsatisfied, they will not reinforce their behavior towards the organizational activities and may look for other opportunities. So this is a very important observation which needs a special focus, which states that when the individual achieves a particular goal and he's nicely applauded, or he's being praised, he's been appreciated by what he did, and it is followed by certain good rewards, maybe a cash reward or a in-kind reward, or there's some change in the nomenclature of his designation. So finally what I'm trying to say is that if you're connecting the outcomes of the project which he's undertaking to the reward which he is getting, if you take this as a drive or a motivating factor, this is going to take the action further, and of course the actions which the employee is doing will further be reinforced, and people will be happy to work again and again because they're getting reward, they are getting appreciated by the bosses. So this is a very important concept, the needs, desires, the motives, because this is the important pumping force for an individual to complete a particular task. Now let us have a deep insight on what the needs and the motives are. A need is a state of lack of deficit of something required by the organisms. In order to sustain or balance, an individual finds it essential to satisfy the needs. The needs are of various types, like psychological needs, social needs, etc. The need may be generally categorized as the primary or psychological needs and secondary or social needs. The needs for water, the need for the sleep and the rest, and the exclusion are the primary needs. The needs for the achievement, affiliation, power are kind of the social needs. And on the other hand, the term motive refers to the goal-directed and energizing condition within the individual that drives the behavior. So motives direct the activity of the individual towards their goals. So here, there is one important point which has to be highlighted here, is that every individual is different, every individual is dynamic, every individual's needs, they keep on changing. Some people give priorities to the social needs. Of course, the primary needs are common to everyone. So that is one thing for which every individual will have to work, because they are the essentials and they are the basic needs which everyone has to fulfill. So to fulfill that, they have to come on to a desired action. But when it comes to the social needs, that is being applauded, getting the power, so here the level of difference of individual occurs. There is a complete diversity here as far as the individuals are concerned. Some people are more ambitious, some people are very satisfying in nature, some people are contented with their life, some people are very they always want to be in their comfort zone. So as per the characteristics of an individual, the levels and the desires of everything will differ, and of course will depend upon, again, the outcomes will depend upon the motivation level of each individual. Some people are born like they are so ambitious, they always want to do something or the other. Some X is over, they will come on to Y, and Y is over, they'll come on to Z. So, and of course their needs are unending, and for that matter needs are unending for every individual. But yes, the level and of the needs, the desires of the needs, needs, the intensity of the needs, and of course the motives will change the type of each individual's behavior, and that is perhaps the motivating force of an individual, for which every individual will show a different result. If the desires and the motives are very high, the needs are very intense, so they will work hard and the motivation level automatically will be very high, and of course they will be working towards achievement of those goals. Now taking it forward, now let us have a concept of the word called goals. A goal motives a person to initiate his or her action. For example, if the hunger is a need, eating food is a goal. Therefore, goal is related to the need state. Though in some cases, behavior is also guided by the intrinsic goals. It means the behavior does not constantly need external goals. It may be pleasing and enjoyable in itself. Some people may like to sing, some people may like to dance, some people may like to play. And for the sake of singing, dancing and playing, accordingly the goals can be intrinsic or extrinsic. So we have categorized the goals in two parts, intrinsic and extrinsic. Now coming on to the level of motivation, that is the nature of motivation. It is very important to understand what the motivation is, what is the basic concept of motivation, and of course the deep insights of its characteristics and the nature. Motivation is mainly concerned with directing of employees towards the achievement of organizational goals. And motivation is a continuous process. And we know that all human beings' needs are unlimited. And it is said that even the God cannot gratify all human wants. And with the fulfillment of one want, another want, preferably of the higher order, is formed. Thus, new wants appear when the present wants are satisfied. Additionally, all the wants cannot be satisfied at the same time, and wants are to be pleased ones. And if the process of motivation, observing the human needs, behavior and action, is continuously followed by the managers. Since human needs are multiple and important of the needs keep changing, the managers constantly watch their needs, behavior, action. So here I would like to address here that the motivation is a continuous process. After the human needs are, of course, when they are unlimited, so one's need is fulfilled, the other gratified, intense need would automatically appear. This does not need any kind of process or something, and it is a human behavior that we always strive to, get on to a higher need. For example, we have a cycle, we would like to go on for a scooter, and then of course with a car, and then of course with a luxury car, and eventually we'll want to have our own charter plane. So this is how the needs of the higher order will emerge, because everyone always wants to have more and more, and this is also a psychological aspect and the basic characteristics of the individual, that they are always unsatisfied, and always the needs of the lower order, when they are fulfilled, the needs of the upper order will automatically emerge. And the process of the motivation is very important to understand, because it is the process only by incorporation of which the managers will achieve the objectives of the organization very strategically. Now coming on to motivation as a psychological concept. Motivation is concerned with the psychological aspects of the human being, the levels of fulfillment, gratification, by using the same reward different from person to person. This is due to a disparity in ambition, attitude, feeling and equanimity of the individuals. Thus, motivation is a reaction of the human beings to the inducements offered. The degree of motivation cannot be measured in quantitative terms, and it can only be observed through action performance of employees, and motivation is an internal force or a feeling of a person. So this is a very important concept to be conceptualized and realized, that motivation has everything to do with the psychological aspect of the human beings. Now basically motivation, as we see that the levels of each individual is different, and when I say that they are different, it means they are different in terms of their ambition, they're different in terms of their, the lifestyle, and of course the level of inducements which are offered to them to motivate them, to desire, drive them to a particular action will also differ. If you give the old clothes to the slum dwellers, they are very happy. But if you give the used clothes to a person who is of a stature of a society, he will take it as offended that why is he giving me a used clothes. So of course the individual levels, the income levels, the ambitions levels, the desired levels, the positions of the individuals in the organization, they are all different. So when the question paper is different, we cannot have the same answers for everyone. So what an individual has to do is, it has to, connect everything to the motive, and of course the eventual results are very pleasant. And of course every manager of the big organizations, they have a close watch on what type of individuals they have in the organization, what are their driving force, to what level they are inclined towards achievement of those goals, to what is their present level and what will be their future level, and to bridge that gap, to plug that gap, what are the proper inducements which have to be introduced to motivate them to a particular level. So this is a very important observation which every manager has to very closely understand, and for this to my knowledge, psychologist is also being appointed as a team, because what a psychologist can do, nobody else can do, because they have a very close watch on each individuals who are a part and parcel of the organizational workforce, and of course they have to constantly watch, keep their constant test, keep a constant monitoring on what are the possible inducements which can produce the desired results. Now of course motivation we have already talked about. Now let us have a concept of that it is a unifying force which binds everything, and of course which is every individual and organization is striving for. Motivation is considered as a self-concept. Self-concept is a life viewpoint of a person that he creates about himself during his childhood. He or she believes in same way during his lifetime unless and until a chief transform takes place in his or her life. And of course, consequently, those who formulate an optimistic view about themselves during the childhood will be motivated by themselves in the rest of the lifetime. And it's vice versa in case of a negative self-concept. Thus, motivation is required at all levels of management. Both managers and non-managers need to be motivated to accomplish the organizational goals and through them their personal goals. Now, motivation is multidimensional. Motivation has a number of multifaceted components which encompasses the internal urges and the desires felt by the employees, external pressures and goals that influence the employee's perception about the risk and the benefits of the behavior to the self, and the cognitive assessment of a situation. The term motivation normally means that rewarding a person for contributing to organizational output. Negative motivation to organizational output, negative motivation, that is the punishments and the penalties, though not often used, can also be effective in influencing the organizational behavior. Because the punishment, sometimes the punitive actions can also play a very significant role, because taking onto the punishments will create some kind of a scare or some kind of a ill feeling among the employees, and they are very scared about the consequences. So they will automatically do towards completement of the or accomplishments of the goals. Now motivation is a key to change. Of course, people, you are dealing with the workforce, you have to change their desires, you have to change their levels, and of course the motivation is a key to change, because people will happily transform themselves in terms of what they have to do, what kind of changes have to be introduced in the organization, etc. So the word motivation is inevitably linked to an understanding of the personal change. It is a concept that has also been inspected by the modern psychologist and the theorist, and the nature of the change and its causes, like motivation, is an intricate construct with evolving definitions. Few of us, for example, take a totality deterministic view of the change as an unforeseeable result of biological process, yet most of us accept that actuality, that the physical growth and the maturation do produce the change. The baby begins to walk, adolescent seems to drive the hormonal changes. We know that, but yes, the social norms and the roles can change, retaught and influence the behavior, although few of us want to think about ourselves as simply in compliance to what others anticipate. Indeed, we believe that the reasoning and the problem solving as well as the expressive commitment can uphold the change. Now we have seen here that it is a unifying force. It can offer many kind of changes. So now let us now do some work on the importance of motivation. We have seen that motivation can change an individual. Motivation employees is a key to business. Motivating employees means highly prolific staff that will help in achieving the organizational goals. And before developing a motivational strategy, the first is to introduce what motivates the employees. And the things which impel the employees to their peak performance will help in developing better programs that motivate and keep hold of the best employees for the business. It is also true that not every employee will be motivated by the same thing or the strategy. Therefore, focusing on a list of important motivating programs, depending upon the suitability of different employees, hold the key plans. The plans can comprise everything from monetary incentives, rewards and recognitions, and of course everything from monetary incentives, rewards and recognitions, structuring programs that support the work-life balance, relaxed office environments, etc. So we have seen here in detail that what motivation is all about. What are the basic characteristics of motivation? That it is a continuous process, it's a unifying force, it's a force that can be changed, etc. So, it can also bring about the desired changes. So, in this session, I would like to conclude by saying that in the next we will be talking about the theories of motivation. Thank you so much. Hello friends, so let us start with the importance of motivation. As we have already seen the concept of motivation, that motivation is a continuous process, it's a life-giving aspects to the human beings, and it is a motivating force, it is the driving force with which we can always put the individuals onto a desired job. It's a concept to introduce the important and the key and the changes, and of course the motivation level will have to be different for each individual, so we cannot have a tailor-made program for the organization. But yes, we can always understand the psychological aspect deep into it, that what are the basic motivating programs which can be introduced. And of course, depending upon each situation, the program can be implemented accordingly, that which program will suit in which situation. So you must have the highlights of the motivating factors, but which one to apply will depend upon each organization and each situation. So of course, taking it forward, the plans you can organize for the organization, but yes, the initiation will be depending upon the situation of each economy and each for that matter company. So the first is the sets human resources in action. The motivation of course is a very driving force which will set the human resources into action. Every organization needs physical, financial and the human resources to achieve its objectives and goals, and it is therefore through the motivation that the human resources can be fully utilized. This can be done by building the keenness in employees and motivating them to the work effectively and efficiently. This consequently helps the business to fully utilize all its resources. Workers who are satisfied with their work and the work environment, they contribute positively towards the organizational goals and objectives. The rate of absenteeism and the turnover that gets reduced. So once the motivational programs are launched in an organization, so every individual will be transformed. Everyone will be working from their heart and core, putting their heart and soul into their job. So there will not be any kind of a force behind them. They are doing it willfully, they are doing it happily. So this is the success of implementation of the motivational program, that everything is transformed and everything will be depending upon that how their motivating workforce is all about. There are so many empirical studies to this effect, that if the workforce is motivated, if the workforce is highly motivated in terms of keeping their all needs and desires fulfilled, the eventual eventual outcome of this is that you will have the desired productivity levels. So first you have to see what kind of desires and needs are there to motivate them, to drive them to a particular road. And of course, after pinpointing onto their needs, then you have to make the strategic tailor-made programs to be implemented onto them so that they are happily onto their job, and there's no punitive action which can be taken against them, because they are willfully putting their everything into their heart and soul, into their jobs profiles which they have to perform, and they will eventually be the performers, the achievers which every organization is looking for. So this is a profitable positive motivational programs which have to be launched very diligently, very strategically, again depending upon the type of the workforce you have, the types of levels of desires they have, the types and levels of motives they have. So taking it forward, the motivation also improves the efficiency of the employees. When the workers are motivated to satisfy their lower and higher order needs, they work to satisfy the organizational needs also. This increase in the efficiency of the organizational activities, the performance level of an employee does not only depend upon his qualifications and capabilities, and in order to achieve the best performance out of him or her, the gap between the ability and the eagerness has to be fulfilled when eventually helping in enhancing the performance of the employees. This will result in increasing the output, reducing the cost of operations, and improving the overall efficiency. Now, as I have already mentioned, that if you want any kind of reinforcement from the employees, you have to connect their work with the reward factor. Reward factor could be monetary, it could be non-monetary, or it could be anything related to, stepping up them in the hierarchy, giving them more responsible positions. But eventually you have to see their psyche levels and to see that what kind of motivating factors will influence them, because the organization has to drive so many people together, and this is the beauty of the workforce, that everyone is different, every individual is different. Of course, when we have difference in their levels, difference in their motivating levels, of course you have to implement a different program for everyone. So definitely when the motivating factor programs are influenced or implemented in the organizations, the employees will feel very happy, and they would like to work from their inner self, and they are transformed. So basically the transactional approach converts into transformational approach. So this is the beauty of the motivational programs, which every individual, every organization is looking for each individual who's a part and parcel or the workforce of the organization. So this not only makes them happy, but their efficiency levels also moves up, because they are putting everything from their heart. And of course, the wastage is come, the output is optimized, the cost levels are decreased. So of course, it leads to the accomplishment of the goals also. So the next is, the goals of an enterprise can be achieved only by the resources which are utilized properly, and there is a presence of cooperative work environment in the organization, and employees and performance are performance driven, and the top level management is a visionary and a cooperative in this aspect. So goals can therefore be achieved if the coordination and the cooperation takes place concurrently, and among all the elements of the organization which can be effectively done by motivating and the human resources of the organization, the workers are sometimes able to but not willing to perform organizational tasks for the lack of motivation. Effective motivation combines ability of the workers with willingness to work and maximizes their potential to work. And it not only this, it builds the friendly cordial relationships. Now the organization behavior, it's an interplay of the interpersonal relationship or the industrial relationship between the workers, between the management, etc. So the motivation is a significant factor which brings the employees satisfaction. They can also be done by framing an incentive plan for the benefit of the employees, and the incentive plans like monetary, non-monetary, promotion opportunities, the morals of the employees, managers ascertain of their employees, the psychological or the physiological, and help them fulfill their needs through motivation. Motivation thus helps the workers satisfy their personal needs. It also promotes the communication between the managers and the workers. Both try to understand each other's needs and satisfy them to the maximum extent which is possible. Now coming on to the major part of our lecture of today, that is the theories of motivation. Now it is an extensive series and there are so many world famous theories of motivation which we will be doing at length today also and the coming EduSet lecture also. So part of it I will cover in this lecture and a part of it will be covered in the next lecture. So the human behavior being complex, so in terms of their need behavior, action process, different motivation theories, they emphasize on these elements in a different perspective. Because everyone is coming out that this is the best motivating factor, this is the hygiene factor, this is the dissatisfiers. There are so many frontiers, paradigms and the elements which every psychologist has pointed out differently. But as a matter of fact, if we club them all, they are the highlights of the motivators which can actually change the employee and putting on to their desired action. So today we will be starting with the need or the content theory. In the content theories, we have about 3 theories which we'll do today. The Maslow theory, the Hertzberg theory and the Clayton theory and the Clannon theory. And the cognitive theories will be talking about the Porter and the Lawler, the Adams theory of equity, the goal setting theory given by Lattman, the reinforcement by Skinner and theory X and Y by the McGregor. So first and the foremost theory which is the world famous is the Maslow's need hierarchy theory. Now as the name suggests, there is a hierarchy of the needs and once one need is satisfied of the lower order, then we move on to the upper order and eventually to the highest order need. And it is an automatic process which has been highlighted by the Maslow need hierarchy theory that each small need has to be fulfilled first, then automatically the interplay of the next theory and the next need will emerge. In 1943, Abraham Maslow, one of the founding members and the fathers of the humanist approach to the management, he wrote an influential paper that set out 5 fundamental human needs and their hierarchical nature. A key aspect of the model is the hierarchical nature of needs. Lower the needs in the hierarchy, the more fundamental they are and more a person will tend to abandon the higher needs in the order to pay attention to sufficiently meeting the lower needs. For example, when we are ill, we care little for what others think about us. All we think about is to get better. And of course, all human behavior is directed towards the fulfillment of these needs in this order only. Abraham Maslow of the need hierarchy theory is based upon the needs of the human beings. According to this theory, each and every person possesses certain needs and in response to that needs, he is motivated to do further work and they are in hierarchy and this will also drive the people to work. And of course, the need of every person that should be fulfilled according to the hierarchy because one need of that person is satisfied, another need will be created respectively. The needs have to be classified in this order. The Maslow hierarchy of needs is as follows. It is often displayed as a pyramid such as one such in a figure. The lowest levels of the pyramids are made up of the most basic needs, while the more complex needs are located at the top of the pyramid. And as the people progress, the Maslow hierarchy needs becomes increasingly psychological and the social. The needs at the bottom of the pyramid are basic physiological needs and once these level needs have not been met, people can move on to the next levels and which are for the safety and security, love and belongingness, esteem and self-actualization. So coming on to the first basic need which is at the bottom of the pyramid, we talk about as a physiological needs. The physiological needs are those which are required to sustain in life such as water, food and sleep. According to this theory, if these fundamental needs are not satisfied, then of course one will surely be motivated to satisfy them. Higher needs such as social and esteem are not recognized but until one needs satisfied for the basics. Now this is the first need of the Maslow need hierarchy theory pyramid. Now this need hierarchy pyramid theory states that the individual will not bother to achieve anything unless and until the basic needs of an individual, which is covering upon the water, food and the shelter, they are not being fulfilled, and of course the sleep. So once these basic needs are satisfied, then only the individual will think about on the higher order needs. So like we've given an example that if an individual is feeling sick, so of course he will give all the importance to get himself better rather than to moving on to what people will think, the self-esteem needs, the self-actualization needs, they will come little later. But yes, they will emerge automatically once the basic physiological needs are satisfied. Now coming on to the safety needs. So once we feel that all the physiological needs, that is the food, shelter, clothes and sleep are satisfied, the next need which is in the pyramid, which is above the physiological needs, is the safety needs. Once the physiological needs are met, one's attention turns to safety and security in order to be free from the threat of physical and emotional harm. Such needs might be fulfilled by living in a safe area, medical insurance, job security, and the financial reserves. So these are the basic parameters as far as the safety needs are concerned. Now basically when you talk about the safety needs, everyone needs an area in which you want to be safe. And of course people want all their medical insurance to be done, all their job securities are there so that nobody feels that they can be retrenched anytime. And of course the financial reserve, so that in case of any untoward incidents, in case of any financial contingencies, that fund could be used. Now after the physiological needs are fulfilled, the safety needs are fulfilled, the next in hierarchy is a social need. Once a person has met the lower level physiological and the safety needs, higher level motivators, they are awakened, and first level of higher level needs are the social needs. Social needs are those related to interaction with others, and it may include friendship, belonging to a group, giving and receiving love. Now see, we are individuals, we are social beings. No, we do not want to alienate in the society. We always want to be a part of the society. And of course, when you have to fulfill all these aspects, the needs which is being mentioned here is as a social needs. Social needs basically center around the friendship, belonging to a particular group, and giving and receiving of love. This is what every individual strives for. The next need in the hierarchy. So first we did the physiological needs, then the safety needs, and the next need which we did was the social needs, and now we are coming on to the esteem needs. This is the fourth in the pyramid from the bottom. After a person feels that they belong, the urge to attain a degree of importance emerges. That is what is called as the esteem needs. Esteem needs can be categorized as external motivators and the internal motivators. Internally motivating esteem needs are those such as esteem needs, accomplishment, self-respect. External esteem needs are those such as repetition, recognition. Some examples of esteem needs are recognition, that is the external. Attention, it's also external. Social status is also external. Accomplishment is the internal. Self-respect is internal. And of course, the Maslow later improved his model to add a layer in between the self-actualization and esteem needs. The need for aesthetics and the knowledge has also been added to his knowledge. So after we are thorough with the concept of fulfillment of the physiological needs, we came on to the security needs, then to the social needs, and after doing the social needs, we are on to the esteem needs. Esteem needs is all about when individual talks about some kind of attention, recognition, social status, accomplishment, self-respect, etc. So these factors will emerge when all the basic levels which we have already discussed, that is the physiological, security, social needs are already satisfied, and people are very happy at those levels. So esteem needs are automatically emerging, and this is all we are talking about in terms of how happy they are, how recognized they are, and what kind of recognition are they achieving in the society, are their bosses happy with them. So there are certain internal and external motivators in the esteem needs. That is, if you're getting a self-respect or if you are, coming on to the focus of accomplishments, these are all internal. But yes, when you're talking about the social status, when you're talking about the attention, when you're talking about the recognition, they are all a part of the external motivators, and they are most important as far as the esteem needs are concerned. But yes, the Maslow has modified his model and has also included later on, as far as adding a layer in between the self-actualization and the esteem needs, is the aesthetics and the knowledge. So this model has already been improved and already been added. So the last model in terms of the Maslow need hierarchy theory is a self-actualization need. Self-actualization is a summit of Maslow motivation theory. It is about the quest of achieving or reaching one's full potential as a person. Unlike the lower level needs, this need is never fully satisfied, and as one grows physiologically, there are always the new opportunities to continue and to grow. Self-actualization people tend to have the motivators such as truth, justice, freedom, wisdom, and the meaning. Self-actualized persons have frequent occurrences of peak experiences, which are energized moments of profound happiness and harmony. According to Maslow, only a small percentage of the population reaches the level of self-actualization. So self-actualization is the crux of an individual himself. Once he is able to have the physiological safety, security, self-esteem needs completely fulfilled as an individual, so now he has emerged as a self-actualized person who has, hunger for the truth, for the justice, for the wisdom, and to have the real meaning of the life. So this is the final and the eventual stage which everyone looks for, and this is how from the lowest to the highest order needs of the individual which are fully satisfied and fully fulfilled. So this is all about the Maslow need hierarchy theory. There is second theory which is called as the Hertzberg two-factor theory, which is the last theory which I will cover in this lecture, and followed by the other content and the other theories of motivation will be taken in the next lectures. So in 1959, Frederick Hertzberg, a behavioral scientist, he proposed a two-factor theory or the motivator hygiene theory. According to the Hertzberg, there are same factors that result in satisfaction, which they are other job factors that prevent dissatisfaction. So this is a very important aspect of the Hertzberg theory, that he has identified certain factors which are dissatisfiers and there are certain factors which are satisfiers. So according to the Hertzberg, the opposite of satisfaction is no satisfaction, and the opposite of dissatisfaction is no dissatisfaction. So Hertzberg classified these job factors into two categories: the hygiene factors. Hygiene factors are those essential for existence of motivation at workplace. These do not lead to any kind of positive satisfaction for the long term, but if these factors are absent, if these factors are non-existent at the workforce, they do not lead to positive satisfaction for a long period. But if these factors are absent, these factors are non-existent at workplace, then they lead to dissatisfaction. And of course, in the other words, the hygiene factors are those factors which, when adequate, reasonable in the workplace, it pacifies the employees and do not make them dissatisfied. So these factors are extrinsic to work. Now coming on to what are motivational factors and what are dissatisfiers. So the first here we'll talk about the motivational factors. Motivational factors cannot be regarded as motivators. These motivational factors yield a very kind of a positive satisfaction amongst the employees. These factors are inherent to work, and these factors motivate the employees for a superior performance. These factors are also called as the satisfiers. These are the job factors related to performing a job, and these are intrinsically rewarding. Now coming on to the analysis of this theory of motivators and the Hertzberg two-factor theory. This is a very important factor theory, that there are certain factors will eventually create some kind of positive eventualities, and there are certain factors which will have create a no satisfaction or dissatisfying factors theory. So the hygiene factors, the motivating factors, the dissatisfiers, they have to be given a close look as far as the strategist of the individual organization is concerned, because certain things will always push you towards a positive outcome, but there are certain factors which will also create a negative outcome. So like for example, you're working in a workplace, so the basic things which are required is your ventilation, proper lighting, etc. So that will of course, not create any kind of a dissatisfaction, but will also create some kind of a problem, because this is going to create a lot of hitch as far as the continuous flowing of the working conditions are concerned. But yes, there are certain positive aspects to it that which needs to be carefully designed, because they are the factors which is actually going to create the positive eventualities for the motivating factors of the organization. So far, so now we have discussed two theories of motivation, the Maslow need hierarchy theory, and let me have a recap of both the two. The first is about the Maslow need hierarchy theory. There are 5 sets of pyramids which he has talked about. From the core, from the bottom we have the physiological needs, that is the food, clothing, shelter and the sleep, followed by the security needs, social needs, self-esteem needs and the self-actualization needs. The fulfillment of one will automatically come on to the emergence of the other. It's an interplay of the needs at each levels, and then we discussed about the Hertzberg two-factor theory. The one is called as the hygiene factors. The hygiene factors are those job factors which are essential for the existence of the motivation at workplace, and they do not lead to any kind of a positive satisfaction for a longer period, but they are also required for a longer period for the organization to stay, the workers to stay in that organization. And the other factor which we are talking about, the motivational factors, they are the factors which are going to have a enduring presence of the people in the organization. So with these words I conclude these two theories which we have talked about today, and the rest of the content theories and the motivational theories will be discussed in the next EduSet lecture. Thank you so much.
Dear friends, on that note, we would like to thank Dr. Rajput for coming to our show and delivering this wonderful lecture. And thank you, dear friends, for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.